Good evening, Facebook family and friends. Wow, we've had some technological issues, but wonderfully, AfriAge, the podcast, is on and live. Thank you for joining us. AfriAge stands for Africans for Restoration of Ethics in Government, and we're so glad to be back with you tonight. Thank you for joining us. Please share with your friends and let them know that we're on. And guess what we're going to be talking about tonight? Our subject for tonight is addressing aviation issues in Africa. And we will be welcomed by a wonderful expert who is a pilot from the motherland of Africa. Yes, so we're excited to bring him to you tonight. But as we begin, let us kick off things with our founder and CEO in the person of Reverend Dr. Aquilus Ricks. He will be joining us now as well. Welcome, Dr. Ricks.
You. I cannot see myself. There you go. Thank you so much. Good to be back, folks. Good to be back. Yes, we are excited for another episode of AfriH, and we look forward to a wonderful time with our featured guest tonight. So thank you for your patience and welcome again. It's good to be here.
Great, great. Thank you, Dr. Ricks. We're so delighted to have you. And I should put your name up there so that everyone can see you as well. He is definitely the founder of AFRIGE. Again, that stands for Africans for Restoration of Ethics in Government. And now let us switch gears to our guest, who is our expert that's going to talk to us about some of the challenges, some of the issues that confront the aviation sector in Africa. So please let's give a warm welcome to none other than Pastor Adrian Lai, pseudo pilot as well. Welcome, Pastor Lai, to AFRIGE.
Thank you, Mr. Race, and I'm glad that I'm on Africa tonight, and I'm honored that I've been selected by Africa to be one of your guests on your Tonight podcast. I don't know what number podcast is this. Is this
This is number
this is number
two. So
number
you're still in the
two?
beginning
Wow,
stages.
that's quite an honor to be on the number two podcast of Afri, and I'm glad we got to have time tonight to talk about aviation. I wish I should have been well dressed, but
It's okay. It's
well, I
okay.
still have my hat here.
There you go. There you go.
You're welcome to wear it if you like. It's up to you.
Yeah,
Oh,
but I'm glad we
wonderful.
got to talk aviation. Uh, I love talking about aviation.
Oh, great. Well, we're glad to have you here. So let us kick things off, Pastor Lai, or should we say Pilot Lai? What do you prefer, sir?
I would take anyone.
Well, since we're
I'm,
talking
I'm
about,
bivocational, so I will accept anyone.
oh, wonderful. I like that. So since you're wearing the hat for aviation in your pilot role, not your pastoral role, I'll call you Pilot Live. So, Pilot Live, can you give us a comprehensive view of aviation in terms of a layman's understanding of aviation, what it is? Help us to understand what is aviation and going from there.
Well, when you say a comprehensive aviation view, well, that's a little more than what a layman would expect. But we know aviation is the science, industry, and operation of aircraft, and it includes everything involved in designing, building, maintaining, regulating, operating machines that fly. And not just planes, but helicopters, drones, airship, and more. So if transportation were a body, aviation would be the circulatory system of the sky, connecting people, goods, and nations across vast distance. And there are several branches of aviation. We have the civil aviation branch, that is part of most people interact with, the civil aviation branch. We have commercial aviation or commercial air transport, you know, which is airlines, uh, Lufthansa, Delta, Emirates, Brussels Airlines, etc., passengers, flights, cargo flights, DHL, FedEx. So those are commercial air transportation. We also have general aviation, where everything that is not a plane or military, private jet, helicopters, these are all into general aviation. So there are a lot of branches of aviation. We have military aviation, fighter jet, transport aircraft, surveillance drones, helicopters, airborne. These are all. And then we have aerospace.
Yeah.
Aviation blends into space flight, rocket,
Oh, wow.
satellites, space planes, space exploration, aviation, and aerospace. They shared engineering, physics, and safety principles. So when we get into the comprehensive acts of aviation, we also see that the aviation ecosystem, what makes it all work. Aviation is not just a pilot and plane, it is a massive ecosystem. Companies that design and build aircraft, Boeing, Airbus, Embraer, Bombardier, Lockheed Martin, and you name it from one to another, they include aerodynamics, material engineering, jet engines, avionics, airports, air traffic control, ATC, aviation regulations, and we don't have time for me to give them details, aviation maintenance. Now, what is the purpose of aviation? You know, Aviation exists to connect nations, move people and goods quickly, support global trade, enable humanitarian relief, strengthen national, defense, advance science and exploration. In the simple term, to answer that question, aviation is the entire world of flying. The machines, the people, the science, the rules, and the system that make flight possible. That's the simplest term I can define aviation in.
Thank you, Pastor
Wow.
Lloyd. Let me just chime in, and make a follow up because is amazing because our limited understanding.
We have a somewhat of an echo for you, Dr. Ricks.
Yeah, if you can just turn the volume down on your speaker, please. All right.
Okay, go ahead.
So I think we have this limited view of aviation. That we just see it just getting an airplane and flying. And that's our concept. But I thank you so much, Pastor Life, for just giving us a little bit more detailed understanding of it. You know, uh, with with FREH, our vision is to come alongside Africa and address issues impacting Africa and try to tie it into how we can do the right thing. The ethics is about doing the right thing. It's all about doing the right thing and how we can come alongside to help Africa do the right thing, especially in this era of aviation. So my question to you is this: how can aviation be a transformative sector in helping African government services?
Well, how can aviation transform governments and public service in Africa? So, aviation in Africa is often treated as a luxury or an afterthought, but yet global data has, recent African Union and AITA analyzed how that aviation is actually a high impact development sector. With the power of reshape economies, it strengthens state capacity, it improves citizens' daily lives. Africa's aviation sector already contribute at least 75 billion to GDP and support 8.1 billion jobs, and is projected to even grow. But how can, and there are countries in Africa that are doing well in aviation. Example, Ethiopia Airline. It's a great airline and it's also a great revenue for the nation. So my thought is, how can other countries that are not connected to mainstream aviation get on board? Because it's a development. Say for my own country, Liberia, how can Liberia get on board? How challenging it is. But when we understand that developing our aviation industry is a revenue stream, then we would decide to invest in our revenue stream that would bring high impact development. The African Union has also launched a 30 billion plan to modernize aviation infrastructure and accelerate the single African air transport market. They SATEM, and they call this strategic engine of continental integration. So aviation strengthens national connectivity and state presence. If I would be brief in this, there's a lot I can say about it. I can talk about
Yeah.
aviation drive economic growth and job creation.
You know,
But yeah,
you know,
that's what aviation is. Go
you
ahead.
know, and just to follow up with that, because that's one of the things, that really stood out to me, that aviation can create jobs. It is a job creating mechanism as well. Then the question now, why is it Africa is not investing more or at least considerably into aviation? If it can create jobs and it have all these benefits, why Africa is not investing into it?
Well, and beside it just creating job, it's also a good revenue stream. You can see how much Ethiopia Airline brings to the revenue of Ethiopia.
Yeah.
That is one example. You can also see how much Kenya Airways contribute to the revenue of Kenya. Now, aviation modernization also improves government quality. Strong regulatory institution, transparent safety oversight. Aviation reduces the cost of doing business. So people traveled easily. And again, excuse me if I use this example. Now, I was told that traveling from Monrovia to Abidjan, which is a 1 hour flight, because of poor aviation connectivity, people have to take a day for that trip, or even more and even expensive.
Wow.
And you and I fly from here to Chicago, from Minneapolis to Chicago for $150 or $200, depending on the day. And we are in Chicago in half hour or 45 minutes, 1 hour, depending.
Yes.
That's the distance between Monrovia and Abidjan. But if you ask someone how long it takes you by plane from Monrovia to Abidjan, they tells you where all they need to connect before they get to Abidjan. So to answer your question,
Yes.
in my opinion, and I stand to be corrected, and I'm not the gospel and Bible on this, I think there's more politics involved than the attention of business-minded insight from government, because it is not about bringing a development that makes you re-elected. It's about intentionally seeing how you can generate revenue streams. Is it difficult? Well, it's not as difficult as it seems because once we are intentional of improving our aviation industry, there are so many ways that aviation can be made possible.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you for sharing those potential opportunities for Africa and then sharing the success stories for Ethiopia and for Kenya. That is wonderful. So the next question would be, one of the struggles that Africa has is the delivery of goods and services to all of her citizens, especially those in rural areas due to accessibility issues. Now, it is clear that aviation can mitigate this problem since cars, buses, and trucks fall short. What are your thoughts?
Of course, aviation is the fastest way to connect globally. And aviation today, Amazon deliver our packages, speed delivery 1 day because it's been flown. So, and aviation in the US started as a mail delivery. So these are possibilities that aviation connects government. And because if you have aviation going, business prices reduce for the citizen because it doesn't take that long to get goods to consumer because of aviation. It doesn't take that long for business owner to connect with business globally. Uh, because of aviation and modernization, today I was surprised that I could buy something from Singapore and ship it to my brother in Singapore using Amazon Singapore. Now, Amazon Singapore is working because of aviation. Obviously, we are not trucking those goods from Amazon there, and we are not driving it to Singapore. So this improved the livelihood of the people. They strengthen government. It brings income, and goods and services become a lot more cheaper because of aviation.
Wow, what a succinct answer, and thank you for sharing that example about your brother in Singapore. Wow, I have to just ask you, since we know that you are a pilot, tell us what is the furthest distance that you have flown? What country?
Uh, from Chicago to Singapore, I guess that's the farthest distance. That put us about 16 hours of flight time, depending what you fly and how high you flying. So if you are flying in 737 Max, you would be a lot slower. If we were higher than faster in a 747 or a 787 Boeing. So it depends, but a few hours different in between. The longest flight of aviation right now, uh, if I'm not 100% updated on this, but it's New York to Singapore. It's 19 hours
Oh,
direct.
wow. Wow, so you flew, just for those that are a little bit green. I'm just curious, in terms of you literally flying for 16 hours, was it you doing it solo or was it the co-pilot taking a stint? Did you have to stop to refuel? Give us just an understanding if you can, since that's on the other side of the world.
Well, that's the beauty of aviation, and that's why aviation is the one of the safest medium of transportation because our pilot are not exhausted because they don't fly 16 hours. Uh, if you have a 16-hour long haul, you probably have at least about three, four pilots in the cockpit, the flight engineer that helps break one another in between so that one pilot is not exhausted you know, on the yoke or on the control because he's flying 16 hours. It's like you're taking a road trip and you're driving 16 hours to New York. You alone. No. Pilots are always well rested. They are breaking one another. They are well regulated. They don't work, a certain hours. So a pilot is not going to do a 40 hours a week. So, and regulation changes. So there will be a time that the most a pilot will go in a week is maybe 20 hours. Uh, the regulation also state that after every 4 hours or 8 hours of flight, you have to rest for 8 hours straight. So if anyone listening who is a passenger think that, well, I hope the pilots are not exhausted. No, even if they want to be exhausted, regulation would not allow them to be. Example, this I don't know if anyone listening have been at the airport where you are about to take off and they say, well, the flight is delayed an hour because we have to change the crew.
Yes.
Well, they are changing that crew because that crew have exhausted their hours of flight. And probably if your flight is for 4 hours and that crew still has 2 more hours of flight and there was a 1 hour delay, or it was a 3 hours flight, for example, and there's a 1 hour delay, and would be that crew will be out of compliance for the next 1 hour of the flight if they continue that flight. So we have to replace that crew because regulations is strongly serious about not using exhausted crew in aviation.
Great.
So pilots are not flying for 16 hours. Yeah.
Let me just chime into, even as the conversation is going on, I'm kind of, that's a lot. I really admire the Western democracies. I really admire them in terms of, how they develop different sectors, to benefit the citizenry. And coming to the West and living in the West and just seeing, I mean, you go through the airports. I mean, look at how these structures are, I mean, well laid out, beautiful structures. And you talk about the flight time, the taking off, the transportation. you know I think about Africa again. Our heart is Africa. We want to come alongside
Yes.
Africa.
Yes.
you know where do we start to develop this thing? Because if this is it fosters, it has this economic part attached to it, this economic aspect to it, that is just amazing. Because imagine if the different counties or different states in a particular country, we have a viable working airport. And just talking about job creation, there's so many people being employed in those areas. you know and then you have the development of pilots, training mechanism. I mean, I'm just mesmerized by how the West have really developed this sector. And in Africa, as you mentioned, we have few airlines. Obviously we have Ethiopian Airline, we have Ghana Airways, Kenya Airways, Nigeria Airways, I think South Africa or something, but just a handful. Where do we start to develop this thing and do right? Because Afro is, for us, it's about doing right. Because when someone wins an election, what people don't understand is this: the electorate has given that person a political capital called trust. They give that person trust, that we entrust the responsibility to improve our lives in the hand of an individual and his team. And I mean, can we partner, with Western nations that have already developed this sector to come alongside us to help us? Because they're Africa is lacking in so many sectors, almost all the sectors. Africa is lacking. So for in your estimation, where do we start as a continent? How do we begin this process to develop this sector that will improve transportation, which is economic, obviously, jobs? Where do we start?
Great. And thinking about where to start, first of all, thinking about all the benefits we have, and one of the benefits I haven't even listed is how aviation help government deliver on social development goals,
Yeah.
healthcare, medical evacuation, vaccine delivery, education, connecting remote
Yeah.
schools, agriculture, area mapping, crop monitoring, environmental protection, surveillance, conservations. But why Africa hasn't fully tapped aviation yet? In my opinion, one of the places are under investment in infrastructure. Example, we bring a Boeing 747 to Monrovia. Do we even have a hangar? Do we have a hangar to just check it and fuel it? High taxes and charges, 50% above global average, according to IATA. Fragmented airspace and protectionism, and moreover, weak regulatory oversight, political influence in national airlines. Example, I heard you say Ghana Airways, and I'm not sure of this. I'm just speculating so the Ghanaians don't come after me. But there was a lot of things happening with Ghana Airways. And as I learned from a source that it was political. Back then, I'm talking about this was in 2006, 2008. Ghana Airways were banned, and Ghana Airways were determined as not airworthy to fly because after a certain amount of years or hours on your engine, you have to replace your engine on the plane to be airworthy. Now, if all the ministers are flying Ghana Airways without paying fees, where would that income come from when it's time to replace the engine? Where would that income come from if it is time for Ghana Airways to recertify its airworthiness certificate? Today, if you go to Accra, I think they have one of their DC-10 now. It's a Bangun restaurant. And these are the political influence in national airlines. Slow implementation. But how can we go past that? Okay, I might say it might cost maybe, let me use Liberia as a case study. It might cost Liberia maybe 2.5 billion to bring Liberia Airways back, maybe. If they're going to buy their own plane, hire their own pilots, hire their own air hostesses, and determine their route and become airworthy. That's one aspect. Maybe we cannot afford 2.5 billion. But can we also come up with a well investment infrastructure of Liberia Airways? Can we get a loan from the World Bank for this business? Can the World Bank put a lien on Liberia on these planes? Can we don't need Liberian pilot to bring Liberia Airways back. I always hear people say this and I think it's wrong. But it's a business. It's a job. We put up the job, qualify candidates bid for the job, and they come to get the job done. Can we also partner with other smaller budget airlines that are looking to expand their business? For example, I will use Lion Air in Indonesia. Can we partner with Lion Air? Can Lion Air come to Liberia, set up an infrastructure? Can Lion Air fly Air Liberia medallion? Can Lion Air share the profit with us as we grow? That could be a possibility because it's share profit. And I would tell you, not every aircraft is owned by a single airline. This is why sometimes you are flying one plane, it's Delta Airline. 2 weeks after you fly in the same plane, it's Air France. Because in aviation, there's also what we call in business fractional ownership. So there is a lot of ways to achieve this if we are intentional about it and we want to invest in the infrastructures.
Let me just make sure I get you clear. So if I got you clear, you're saying that it's possible a nation in Africa can buy these planes and hire foreign pilots to fly for the nation.
Yes, Ethiopia Airline, all the pilots are not Ethiopian. It's a business. Delta Airline, even Lufthansa, that is a German airline. I did my reserve. We have all kinds of people flying there. It's a business. Once you are qualified to do the business and you got to pay, you do the business. You don't need Liberian pilot for Air Liberia. Back in the days, there were Russian pilots flying Air Liberia. There were Russian pilots flying Liberia Airways back in the days.
I'm thinking about future Africans that may have interest in this area, um, but they don't have the resources to come overseas, to kind of learn this and to be proficient in it. What thought can you share with us? Because again, we want to help Africa do the right thing, and we don't know who are listening. We hope some African leaders are listening to this, and we catch our podcast. But if you were to advise, I mean, to kind of develop this sector, to spark interest, among the citizenry. I mean, how will you proceed?
Well, there are a lot of aviation school right now around Africa.
Okay.
There are very good aviation school in Kenya. There are good aviation school in Ghana. And okay, say we want to develop, and another way, if we want to develop aviation in Liberia, there are a lot of schools that are willing, there are a lot of flight instructors that are willing to work with your people. For example, every pilot that graduates from pilot school, nearly every pilot has to do what we call CFI 1 and CFI 2. CFI 1 and CFI 2 is Certified Pilot 1 and Certified Flight Instructor 1 and Certified Flight Instructor 2. So, for example, if I'm a CFI 1 and CFI 2, which means I can train a student and I can send this student to FAA, and this student can do his or her check ride, and she can be issued a pilot license. So, for example, just for short term, say we start the Liberia School of Aviation and we go through all the requirements because there's an African aviation requirement. So, and that is not FAA. FAA is more United States based, Federal Aviation Authority. And say I'm a FAA instructor and I train my student in Monrovia and I graduated out of Thunderbird Aviation. And can I secure a testing for my students who are international students? Yeah, I can secure a testing for them. And they can come and go through a FAA testing process and they will be licensed FAA pilots. Now, a pilot training it does not stop when you have your commercial pilot license. You also have to do your jet transition. There's another training between you and the airline. There's another training between the time you graduate from school as a commercial pilot to when you start to fly a jet. So all these things are possible. And that's what I said one our problem is honor investment. And once we are intentional about it, it's simple, it can be done. We can have a flight school in Africa. Kenya has two flight schools that I know about. Ghana have a flight school. It was more military. I think they got it into civil aviation now. So yes, it's doable.
Wow. So then, how can we convince African leaders that this area of aviation is worth the investment?
Well, they need to understand that aviation is not a luxury. It is a strategic development sector that can help African governments govern more effectively, integrate economies, create jobs, strengthen national unity, improve public services, compete globally. So our government need to understand that this is a strategic development sector. It is not a luxury. That would be my talking point if I have to talk to a president about aviation.
Well said. Well said. Well said. Well, we pretty much pressed against time now. We about 2 more minutes from wrapping up. But Pastor Lai, let me just ask you this. We really believe that ethics is foundational to a better Africa. That attention must be drawn to ethics in leadership, ethics in governance. And just hearing your heart, concerning this area of aviation, um, I'm touched. But I want to ask you, um, what can you say in terms of Africa putting a little bit more attention to ethics in how we lead our people?
That's good because if you see across the continent, the push for ethical governance is no longer a philosophical idea. It has become a practical necessity for development, stability, and public trust. And there have been several trends that make this clear. Ethics is now inseparable from transparency and accountability. And if you're talking aviation, you got to be really ethical. And that was what Ghana Airways suffer accountability. African governance is operating in an age where citizens, civil society, and global institutions demand unprecedented transparency. And many countries have adopted ethics commissions, asset declaration system, anti-corruption framework aligned with global standards like the UN Convention Against Corruption, which emphasize strong legal and institutional framework for accountability. So ethics is no longer optional. In my opinion, it is the minimum requirement for legitimacy. I hope I answer your question.
You sure did.
Yes, indeed. That was well said again, Pilot and Reverend Lai, that the crux of any society is trust. And one way to engender trust among the natives, the people, is when you do right, when you hold yourself accountable as well as other pillars within the society. This has been very rich, and but it's been very hopeful that there is many opportunities potentially for the continent of Africa and some of those countries to take a step, if they will, to bring aviation, the rich benefits which you shared um, economically for the people, and then just to ensure their goods can get to other parts of the world. This was really wonderful. Thank you, Pilot Live, for sharing your insights and your expertise. Thank you, Dr. Ricks, for just pioneering these timely topics so that we can partner and assist Africa in doing what is right in this area. Thank you both. I would like to take a moment just to share about AfriAge, and I'll put it up on the screen. If you value what we're doing here tonight, this again is AfriAge, and it stands for Africans for Restoration of Ethics in Government. If you believe in what we're doing, you want to see more of this, we have our next episode coming in March. We do this every other week on a Thursday for 30 to 45 minutes, and you can partner with us in terms of sharing in the efforts that we're doing. And it's right there on your screen if you wish to donate. We've got the Cash App option there or the Zelle. Again, these are efforts where we are trying to partner and get this information out. Right now, it's just on Facebook and YouTube, but we do want to have other avenues that we can get the word out. And then hopefully, even share with some of our African youth so they can be passionate and desire to go back to the motherland and bring their gifts and their talents so that Africa can be upgraded. Thank you. Any last comments, Dr. Ricks or Pilot Lie?
Oh, well, I think my last word on ethics is that ethical leadership is the antidote for systematic corruption. You know, and I know there are people online that are asking questions about partnerships with Ethiopia Airline, and yeah, we can get our people trained in Ethiopia. There's a good airline school there. We can also get our people trained in Kenya. But can we partner with Ethiopia Airline to fly our medallion? Well, I don't know what the business decision will be like, but the business decision is Ethiopia Airline want to expand Ethiopia Airline. So we need to find someone that is willing to expand but also fly our medallion. So bringing Ethiopia Airline to fly as Ethiopia Airline is just encouraging different airlines to come to the country, but bring some revenue, but not to be able to jumpstart our own airline process.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. And I was
Wonderful.
just putting up some of the comments. We did have
Yeah.
some people listening in, and they had some comments that we wanted to share. Okay, wonderful. Pastor Rick's final comments.
Pastor Lai, it's just been an honor. It's been an honor and a privilege to have you on. Thank you so much. And friends, those of you watching us live, on the Facebook, and we'll be uploading this also on YouTube, just to let you know that, we solicit your partnership. The vision we have for Africa is so great. We bring in these professionals to come and just talk about the area of expertise and how we can help Africa do the right thing in these areas. And you just heard, I mean, a wonderful presentation in the area of aviation and how it can jumpstart an economy. It can create jobs for our people, but there has to be investment put into this area. There has to be a considerable attention given to this area to develop it, and partnerships as well, to make this happen. So we hope and pray that this podcast will get to the ears of decision makers, policy makers, lawmakers, people in government in Africa, and they would glean some of the ideas that Pastor Lai shared, how we can develop this area. We'll be back here again every other Thursday. So March 5th will be our next podcast. Visha will be hosting. We'd like to change it up, not just male, female. So Visha will be hosting some female guests, and we'll be talking about other topics that are dear to her heart, concerning other areas of sectors in Africa that need to be developed. But until then, we want to thank you all again. We also want to say to you, if you're not following us on Facebook, we do have our Facebook handle there, and she's going to put on the screen, facebook.com/4afrish. Please like us, follow us, and also YouTube is there as well, so that we can get our visibility. What we are doing out there. We want AfriH to grow to be a global platform, a global brand that Africans can come to learn, to get information, professional Africans and global partners, how we can benefit Africa. So thank you again for coming, Pastor Lai. Appreciate all of you, our audience, and we look forward to March 5th when Visha will have her guests, and they will discuss other issues that's impacting Africa. Good night, everybody. Thanks again, Pastor Lai.
Good night. You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Have a good evening, everyone. God bless you. Bye
Bye
now.
bye.